Let's keep the eye on Apple if we can, of course, talking about Berkshire there, which had been the largest, well, certainly still is, very large holder. The tech giant is planning to open an AI server factory in Texas. This is part of the announcement, at least, of a massive investment in the U.S. Deirdre Bosa joins us. She's in San Francisco. Has more for us on exactly what's behind this plan. Deirdre.
Hey, good morning, David. So let me give you a few more details. Investment of $500 billion over the next 4 years, pledging 20,000 jobs, and that comes less than a week after Tim Cook met with President Trump. Now, Trump was quick to front-run the announcement at a press conference last week on Friday, saying that Apple was going to build here instead because they don't want to pay the tariffs. So really drawing a line there. And again, today on Truth Social, the president posting, the reason, faith in what we are doing, without which they wouldn't be investing 10 cents, which is where it certainly becomes a little muddy. Apple has long been touting investment here in the United States. Here's a press release from 2021 during the Biden administration, where Apple pledges $430 million in U.S. investments over 5 years and exactly 20,000 jobs. And then back in 2018, similar commitment for $350 billion, raising the question, how much of the latest announcement is new? How much is it a repackaging of previous commitments? UBS pours some cold water on the idea of this being new, writing in a note this morning. While the headline figure on the surface is a large number, we believe it lacks substance at this juncture based on history. It also points out that Apple's infrastructure strategy is very different than that of the hyperscalers. Apple spends a lot less. It estimates $10 billion versus roughly $200 billion for Meta, Microsoft, and Amazon and Google in 2024. And that, in turn, has to do with Apple's AI strategy, which has always been very light on infrastructure and focuses on device AI or edge AI, leveraging its own silicon and leveraging the large language models that others like OpenAI have built. Now, all of this, guys, would seem to suggest that the announcement this morning is more political than groundbreaking and really a continuation of the Apple playbook from that first Trump administration. Let the president take credit to avoid tariffs on key parts of the business like iPhone manufacturing.
Yeah, not dissimilar, Deirdre, in some ways from something else you've covered closely, the Stargate announcement, for example, pitched as though it was all done up in a week or two, when in fact, obviously, the plans had been in place for many months. But the announcement obviously tied in part, and it was an enormous announcement, not to diminish it, at $500 billion over the next, whatever it may be, 5 years in terms of data centers. On this one, UBS makes the point, obviously, you mentioned it. I mean, Apple spends so much less on CapEx as a percentage of overall revenues than do Amazon or Alphabet or Meta. And they seem to indicate that if they were really to move up, the buyback might be in question as well, right?
Right. They would have to sort of reallocate capital and, I mean, really enter a game that they haven't been in, right? That they would be starting on the back foot. However, you could argue that new trends in artificial intelligence like distillation could allow them to catch up faster. But again, this would be a very big shift. And I did find the data center piece of this very interesting and new potentially. What would they do with that space? But I mean, we know that Apple hosts a lot of cloud computing, even for its own users. That could be one reason. David, I'm glad you pointed out Project Stargate. It really sort of tells you how difficult it is to track these things. Has Apple added 20,000 jobs since that pledge in 2021 and again in 2018? It's hard to track that. You can look at their own workforce, but, something like Masa-san has done. He can say, well, we invested in all these startups that created jobs. So, it's nuanced and it's difficult to judge, but we'll see what other details come out, Sarah.
Do they get any tariff relief? Don't they still have to pay the higher tariffs?
Yeah, I think we're going to see.
China?
It's a great point, and this would all arguably be to avoid those tariffs. We'll see if that actually works.
Okay, Deirdre, thank you. Deirdre Bosa.